Hey. Ooh, had a tickle in my throat that time, didn't it?
Ooh.
That sounded terrible.
You want to try it again?
No.
No?
I'm not going to try it again.
Okay.
Can you pass me one of those, please? Thank you. Welcome to the Kind of Sleepy Podcast. I'm your host, Knowledge. Who do I got sitting to my left?
Miss EP?
The voice of reason?
You know.
Maybe not today.
Maybe not today. Miss EP won't smoke today.
Oh, Miss EP won't smoke today.
Want
you want
the
all
smoke
the smoke today.
Yes.
I'm with that. I'm not mad at that. I'm totally not mad at that. And I got a good friend and fraternity brother sitting across from me, my man Ice. What's up, man?
Hey, yo.
Welcome,
Glad to be here.
Welcome.
Surprised to see Miss EP jumping ahead of us. We ain't even got to that smoke segment.
We have not got to.
Right.
Want some smoke.
We'll revisit Voice of Reason next week.
But clearly,
Okay.
she wants all the smoke.
But that smoke could be reason. That could be the voice of reason.
Aha.
You got to stay tuned to find out, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So let's start off with our superhero of the week. You know, she makes me want to say Wakanda forever, but instead it's Congo forever. Because she's an immigrant from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. She's a 44-year-old. I think she's a personal trainer, which is evidence in the fact that she's 44 years old and got abs. Like, I'm jealous. Yeah, I'm pretty jealous. But Teresa Patricia Okomau, I probably completely screwed up her name, but this is the woman that climbed the Statue of Liberty during an immigrant protest recently, and I'm just completely, like, amazed. Like, I think that's just absolutely amazing. So she was with a group called Rise and Resist NYC, and she was protesting with them, and she just, decided to climb the Statue of Liberty.
No gear, right?
It just straight up, like, clearly what you say. Really.
Literally a superhero.
Hey, she must do CrossFit, right?
She's got to do CrossFit,
Right.
rock climbing, leaping tall white women in a single bound, all kind of stuff. Like, seriously, she climbed on the Statue of Liberty. Like, how does that work? Like, I was amazed.
She has vibranium.
She clearly had vibranium pants on or something. Like, I really got to get me some vibranium pants. I have a hard time getting up in the morning, let alone getting on a statue. So
Nah, I take that back. That's her Wakanda within superpowers.
Wakanda within.
Yeah.
I'm with that. I like that.
Yeah.
That's dope. We gonna trademark that. Don't steal that. Anyway, but shout out to Teresa Patricia Okomau. She is a superhero. Black women are superheroes in general, but that was like some real life superhero stuff she did right there.
Well, also, did you see the shirt she wore at a
No.
press conference? And she came and she had an all-black sweatshirt that said white supremacy is terrorism. You know, when she knew she would have the most eyeballs on her, right?
She really is a superhero.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at that. Now you said that you might have heard this in her press conference, but she said that Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. And so I climbed the Statue of Liberty because, it was the highest place,
Yeah. Well, and let me make sure I'm accurate. I was at work when I saw it, and so they had the closed captioning on because the sound wasn't on.
Yeah.
So I read that's what she said. So
Yeah.
it didn't actually hit
But
words come out of my mouth, but right.
I've seen it posted multiple places, but I didn't hear it with my own ears, so I don't want to just say that's what she said. But that's dope, man.
Have any like potential charges or anything been?
I don't know,
wouldn't
but
surprise
this isn't
me.
her first run-in with the law. In 2011, she got hit with 60 violations for illegally posting ads for her services as a personal trainer. And she got hit with $4,500 in fines after she spent 5 hours posting those flyers on Manhattan utility poles. She was arrested in 2017 and charged with obstructing governmental administration, unlawful assembly, and trespassing during a demonstration at the Department of Labor building on Varick Street in New York. She had allegedly covered her mouth with tape and refused to respond to police demands. So she really is kind of like a real life, like people, some of these folks on the conservative side have chosen to kind of turn the word social justice warrior into a negative thing. But I personally think that that's an amazing, like a literally amazing description of what she is. Like, she really is like a social justice warrior. Now, the fines and stuff, like, now that wasn't necessarily brave. That was just kind of her not really knowing the law and trying to advertise her business. Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, that whole, covering your mouth with tape and then climbing the Statue of Liberty, that's crazy. Now, here's what made me mad, is that the group that she was with, Rise and Resist NYC, which she was only recently a part of this group, They said she had no connection to them whatsoever until they started, getting positive publicity behind it. Until she started getting positive publicity for it, they later admitted that she was part of the group. Some of the members started calling her a total badass. And one of the activists said she's very dedicated to the resistance generally, but specifically to the issues surrounding immigration and the treatment immigrants have been receiving from ICE and Customs and Border Patrol, and that she had been an active member of the group for about 4 or 5 months. So that, I don't really want to get into too much detail with this because I want to talk about this just a little bit later in one of our other stories. But this is what really bothers me about intersectionalism and being woke. A lot of times our bodies and our talents and energies and just our money even is more than welcome, but our presence isn't.
Right.
This woman took your protest to a whole nother level, and you were going to really just leave her hanging out there to dry until she started getting positive publicity. And that's the leeriness I have a lot of times with activism across the spectrum.
I agree.
So, but I want to.
My efforts really aren't appreciated that much until you identify the benefit for yourself.
Exactly. But I want to talk about that in just a little bit because we're going to come back to that in a situation with somebody I won't smoke with.
Oh.
And they kind of local too.
Ooh.
They kind of local, so I might see them.
Okay.
But anyway, let's move on to the next part of the show, which talks about we're adding to the list of things that Black people can't do in America. We already have like wear a hoodie. Our kids can't play with toy guns. What else is on the list?
Barbecue.
We can't barbecue. Can't listen to loud music with your friends in the parking lot, stuff like that. But now apparently we can't mourn our dead while Black, which kind of goes along with dying while Black apparently. So this was a funeral in Maryland. Okay. And this apparently one of the mourners at the funeral in this Catholic church reached out for a hug and accidentally knocked over a chalice. And Pastor Michael Breeze, whatever his name is, he said he got mad at the chalice being knocked over, and he told the family there will be no funeral, no repast. Everyone get the hell out of my church. Sir, if we getting the hell out of your church, you might need to leave first. Okay?
Hello.
Because there's no way. I get it. You may be a little bit frustrated by something in your church being damaged during a funeral. I get it. My dad's a preacher. I know quite a few preachers. But it's an accident, number one. Number two, people are mourning. You gonna put a whole dead body out in the street because you mad about some material things? What the hell are you preaching on Sunday?
Let's be honest. How much would it cost to replace whatever it was? It wouldn't even be that much. Right.
Well, even if it was like, let's say it was more than $1,000. Okay, let's say the chalice was like $1,800, right? Let's just say that. For just the sake of argument, let's just say it was about $1,800. I think that if you had come to the family and said, "Hey, that was really expensive," like after the funeral, of course, and said, "Hey, that was really expensive. Do you think there's a way we could possibly work out a way to kind of get this together?" Like that would be the way to handle that as a pastor, in my opinion.
Plus, they have insurance, so
yeah, you got insurance.
That's covered. So
I didn't think about that. I did not think about that. Yeah, you got insurance.
Plus, you're supposed to be representing the Lord. What would Jesus do?
Jesus would not tell you to get the hell out of his church.
Right.
Well, I think it's
now. Wait. Let me qualify that statement. Jesus did run people out of the church with a whip. You brood of vipers. He has done that. So don't think that Jesus would not run you smooth the hell about his church, but it would not be for accidentally knocking over a chalice while reaching for a hug.
Right.
So
I think it's just another example where he was attempting to tolerate the people there.
Our presence is tolerated.
Right. He was
attempting
to tolerate it. Like, okay, I'll just get through it. I really don't want to fool with these people, but they're here. Now, cut me a check.
A couple weeks ago, we talked about Black people in white churches, and I don't know whether this is a white church. I do know this pastor is white, and so do you think that is a fairly common mindset that we will tolerate these black people for this for this time, for this hour on a Sunday,
Right.
but not really want to deal with them the rest of the time.
I think that's exactly what it is. And as soon as you quote unquote messed up something,
It's time for you to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think with maybe members that might be the mindset. I would hope that this pastor is the exception
and not the rule.
Right, because ideally I like to think of servants of God, particularly priests who literally dedicate their life to God.
Yeah, see, I couldn't be no
live
priest.
by
Like, you
high
can't get no
standard.
booty. Like,
Right. You're not supposed to. Right.
but you're not. Excuse me. Let me clarify that. Let me
we ain't
qualify
done
that.
that. Yeah,
Let me qualify
we
that statement. You can't get no woman booty.
You know what?
Loophole.
That's
Let me stop. Let me stop.
See,
Yeah.
Let me stop.
you pushing the limits.
I am.
Go ahead and apologize.
I'm
trying to
sorry.
avoid
Okay.
jokes right now.
I'm
Well,
wrong.
Tyrese did on
Yeah.
Star. He was a pastor.
Well, okay. So
I hadn't seen the show.
let's move on. This
I-
is
I've been
this is
I've
gonna
been
get
recently
bad.
watching Star. You have to.
This is
Okay.
this
I've
is
been
gonna get
playing
bad.
catch
Let's
up,
just
but-
keep it moving. Okay, so apparently we can't eat at Subway either.
Well, they did endorse Jared, so that might be good. That's another
Okay.
story, sorry.
Look, man, I'm trying to stay away from that topic.
I know, my bad.
So, this Subway worker in Noonan, Georgia. Why was I not surprised when I saw Georgia? Especially being from Alabama, like this really didn't surprise me. But a Subway worker in Noonan, Georgia, decided to call the police on a van full of black people who were on vacation and stopped to eat. So apparently they came in and it was 8 people who ordered. Okay, so the 911 call said the employee said there were 8 people in a van who were going back and forth to the bathroom and possibly putting soda in water cups.
They probably were. Okay, I'm wrong. Go ahead.
But you call the police, bro?
I know several people who get water cups and put soda in it.
We saw that on the episode of Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I mean, but the police though.
I mean, we already know what calling the police is for.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I'm an old coward.
I'm not gonna go confront these people
Yeah.
for breaking the rules. I'm not gonna maybe go clean up by the place and be like, hey, let them know that there's a watchful eye on them. I'm gonna call the police because these 8 black people who got out of a van, paid for their food, and are now using the facilities that are available to them because they pay for their food, are putting Sprite in their water cups.
Possibly.
Allegedly.
And they may not have,
Allegedly.
And if
Yeah.
you're making 8 sandwiches, how you watching to see what?
You are a sandwich artist. You can't focus on your artistry if you worried about what I'm putting in my cup.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Because you got to be looking pretty close to see if they not hitting that little water button. Because
Yeah.
it's under the
Right.
same spigot.
Yeah. It's just
Right.
So
you need to be paying attention to cheddar or mozzarella.
or Italian versus wheat,
Right.
and make sure my Otis Spunkmeyer cookies are in the oven
Right.
ASAP.
If you're that nervous about approaching somebody, you got to make a decision. You either gonna approach them or let it go.
True.
Yeah, but calling the police is extreme.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like, I don't understand where, okay, and this is something that we as a people have dealt with for I know at least our entire lives we've dealt with this, and I know for generations we've dealt with this. Like, what do people think 911 is for?
To
like-
escalate a situation that you can't escalate.
Like, I know when I called 911, which I can't think of the last time. Have I ever called 911 now that I think about it? I called 911 one time, and that was in college. And that was because it was this guy in the math building. I don't know whether he was having a psychotic episode or what, but he was walking around in the lobby of the math building and he was yelling. Like, he was talking to nobody in particular, but he was yelling and he was being aggressive to people who were walking by. He ain't tried with me because I think I looked at him and was like, try it if you want to. We gon' mental episode or not, you catching a whole ass whooping right now. Like,
Right.
I think he knew who to mess with and who not to. But then he started going outside and he was just yelling and doing all this and being real extra. And so I called Campus PD and was like, look, y'all need to go over there for his safety because he gonna run up on the wrong one and get his ass whooped. And I think he was an exchange student too. He was very clearly from one of the countries in Asia. what they consider the Far East. I don't want to misnationalize him,
Gotcha.
but he was having a whole like episode right there, and I was like, he needs to be contained in some kind of way. But I feel like from now on, like I'm just gonna start calling the police on people for random stuff.
Well, I mean, that's the tough part, though. I mean, I feel like back in my yesteryears, when I was younger, calling the police was something that I would not think twice about doing. Now it's going to need to be like a dire emergency,
Right.
before I dial 911 for anything. Even if I'm the person that needs assistance, I may not call 911. I don't know if this situation will escalate, and the next thing you know, I'm no longer the victim.
Yeah.
Well,
Or maybe I am the victim.
Well, technically, right.
Yeah.
right. Or my theory is that this call 911 is a part of this entitled suburban culture that I'm still getting accustomed to as I try to adjust to family man lifestyle. I think we've reached this point where it's this myth that I always have to be comfortable. Our kids always have to be happy and comfortable, and so we're just call whoever at our disposal, right?
To make them comfortable.
Right, but this is not a good use of public resources, people.
Right.
If you're listening, now with all that said, I'm not gonna lie. A few weeks ago, I almost called 911 because I saw a white dude in a sweatshirt walking around, and it was like 98 degrees outside. And that
that's
struck
suspicious
me
as
as
hell.
strange, right? But then I thought I'll be just as bad as these people who do this.
No,
that we
that's
complain about.
now. Hold on, now that is suspicious as hell to me.
Right, because nobody walk around half naked.
Or
even when it's
if you're
60
wearing a
degrees
long
outside.
sleeve shirt, you're wearing shorts.
Right, but he had on a sweatshirt, hoodie up, in the middle of the day.
Yeah, and that scares me. Like that would bother me, and not because I believe in racial profiling, but that is suspicious. I would have observed him
Oh, I did.
and been like, "Bruh, you real out of place right now."
Well, I think there's a difference in observing behavior and calling the police versus I saw your color and I called the police. There's
right.
a difference.
Yeah, like we talked about I think it was either last week or the week before, where the guy at Church of the Highlands got up there and gave this pre-sermon type thing where he said that he was reading the Bible and how God told him to stand up and be warriors, and that his neighborhood was people doing break-ins in his neighborhood, and he got outside and he saw this car creeping and he knew they were up to no good, and this guy got out of the car and was just walking up the street, so him and his buddies confronted him and then ran off and then chased the car that was leaving their neighborhood. And I was like, that dude might have just been walking home though.
Yeah, see, that's doing too
somebody may have
much.
just dropped him off.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you could have literally observe him. Yeah, don't be obtrusive and obnoxious, but observe him. If you then see a crime being committed, like somebody's house being broken into, something that could technically literally threaten somebody's life, yeah, then call the police. Somebody just walking down the sidewalk in the neighborhood and you don't know them. Hell, I don't know half my neighbors. We live in a society where people aren't as close anymore, so you're not going to know all your neighbors in some residential areas.
Right.
Especially if you
with
live.
subdivisions.
Yeah.
Now, right.
Yeah, it's crazy. Speaking of your neighbors and knowing your neighbors, apparently if you are brown skinned and it's the 4th of July, you cannot play Latin music in your house. Yeah, this actually happened. This guy, Larry Lappin, he confronted his neighbors who were playing Latin music on the 4th of July. He felt disrespected. He knocked on this guy's door, got in his face, and said nobody should, and this is a direct quote, disrespect my fucking country. And then he said, you want to do that on the 4th of July? Throw it in my face? These folks are minding their own Latin American ass, brown ass business, playing some music, having a good time, probably dancing and enjoying their day off. And this guy comes over there feeling so entitled to, as you say, his comfort in the way that he feels his country's holiday should be celebrated, that he confronts these guys. Like, this is ridiculous. And he said and so this is it's crazy. He said the woman who shot the cell phone video told the news station in San Francisco, once again the Bay Area, shout out to them, where you can't barbecue in Oakland, bastards. Said, my father-in-law has a speaker out back, and it wasn't that loud, especially over their loud music that they have a 4th of July party every year. And we've never complained about them. But yet this guy comes over and confronts him on the 4th of July because it's crazy.
Well, I mean, yeah. Is there a 4th of July playlist or something I'm not aware of?
Yeah.
Something like it. Where do you go to download this?
Yeah, like, is it on Spotify? Like, you know, because our podcast is on Spotify. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't have a 4th of July playlist on Spotify. Is it officially sanctioned by the Trump administration? I just want to make sure. Because when we had Obama in office, I didn't see people getting confronted over Spanish music in their backyard.
No.
Don't think so.
I mean, to be completely honest, they are known for bumping the music super loud.
Right.
I will
And
say
that's
that.
Fair. That's fair. But here's the thing about it, though. This family, the woman who shot the video, is a 3rd-generation American citizen from Mexico, and her family's originally from Mexico. She's got family who served in this military. Her husband is a 2nd-generation American citizen. This guy comes to their house, knocks on their door, you know, basically cusses them out, says, this is the 4th of July. Just wait, motherfucker. This is what he says to them. Now, where I'm from, you know, how I was raised, you come to my front door with that. You catching some hands, bro. You're not going to come up on my porch. And to me, when you say, just wait, motherfucker,
Right.
that to me is a threat. Wait on what? Tell me what you want me to wait. Oh, no. What I'm going to do is knock you the hell out and hold you down and wait till the police get here. That's what you going to wait on now because you just confronted me in my home.
Right.
This is my castle. No, it's not going down like that, bro. You need to have a timeout somewhere.
Plus, obviously, he knew they live next door to each other, right? He
Yeah.
knew these are reasonable people. You wouldn't have gone over there and said anything if you thought they're unreasonable people
Right.
because you don't know how that's going to escalate.
Right.
Yeah. Like, you know, if I think now my neighbor, I have a neighbor in the same building as me. My neighbor's the kindest, sweetest woman ever. She leaves little Post-it notes on my door when she has little thoughts about stuff. You know, it's really
That would
interesting.
freak me out.
Like,
Go
she
ahead.
left-
Right. I was like,
Well, you know how my place is set
Right,
up. There's
right,
only
right,
2
right.
people in the building.
Okay.
In the building, it's in a standalone building. And she left a little Post-it note. Said, "Hey, have you seen my trash can? I don't know where it went." So I thought it was my trash can. I thought she'd already taken hers in. So I left it outside her door with the Post-it note on top of it. You know that she's a very nice woman, very reasonable woman. When
so you stole a trash can.
I didn't steal a trash can. I thought it was mine. We have valet trash.
I know. I was just saying.
Whatever. Anyway, so, and the thing is, like, you know, just stuff like that. She knows, like, when the police came to take the police report from my house, she came over there. She was like, "Hey, is everything okay?" I was like, "Yeah, everything's fine, blah, blah, blah." Said a third. Cool. But she knows that if it's something that's disturbing her in my place, she knows that she can knock on my door and be like, "Hey, you know, it's a little loud here, yada, yada, yada." And I know I can do the same thing with her. And that's just the way it goes. Now,
Just common courtesy.
she also knows. She knows this. She knows this about me. I'll just say that much. Won't go in detail, but she knows. She knows that if she comes over to my door and is disrespectful, I can get disrespectful with her.
Right.
So they do this stuff to people that they think they can try.
Well, also, I think that was some built up stuff. That wasn't so
Oh,
much
yeah.
at them.
He's
That
been
was-
emboldened.
Right.
and-
He saw
was some
opportunity.
frustration. Right. And you know, 4th of July, he probably had a little to drink, you know.
He's feeling extra patriotic,
Liquid
and he's making
courage.
America great again. Yeah.
You
Speak.
gonna get a great ass whooping.
Oh yeah, you
But-
make
yeah.
ass whoopings great again. Shirt going on sale soon, by the way.
Well, that and also, you said it's in California. That wasn't even part of America on the original 4th of July. So, you
Right.
know, really,
Speak about it.
that wasn't really your country,
Right.
kind of, you know, but that's
I'm gonna say this and move on. So, somebody posted this on Twitter. I think it said that the way Texas was created is that the Mexican government actually invited white American settlers to settle in that area. You know, just being polite. And when these settlers found out that the Mexican Constitution didn't allow for them to just immediately become citizens, they revolted and created their own state. And so, you know, I'm not gonna go into the rest of the tweet, but the thing is, the Twitter thread. But the reality is, like, this is you're on their land. They have more of a claim to that land than you do, so you can't tell them not to play anything Spanish on their land.
Well, I think that's the bottom line of a lot of issues. For whatever reason, a lot of white people are just under the impression that America is their country.
Well, or that you have to just only be Christian, only play rock and roll, only subscribe to certain things. And here was a direct quote from what he said. Sometimes I wish they would assimilate more.
Mm-hmm.
I hear them playing music, Spanish language music, in the backyard all the time, and it doesn't bother me. Because of the day and what July 4th means to me, I felt disrespected. I'm a very patriotic man. Unfortunately, that wasn't representative of a patriot. Just after a long day, the music hit me the wrong way. When he was informed that the family has been in America for multiple generations and had family members who served in the military, he said that they should be able to play the music of their choice. He said, this is another direct quote, "Those are things I didn't know about them, and those are things that make what I did very bad. Playing the music of their choice is the freedom they are afforded by the people who serve this country. I made a terrible mistake. I am so tired of racism being called a mistake.
Right.
You made a conscious decision to let your racist
And
flag
you don't
fly.
have to
And
know.
let's stop masking racism
As patriotism.
Right.
All right,
That's trash.
That should be that's the next shirt. We
Yeah. Well, it's already a shirt.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. We missed that boat.
Oh well.
But this nationalist stuff, man, people are all like, people try to dismiss the concept of white nationalism being a bad thing. It's absolutely a bad thing.
Well,
When you believe this nation should only be white.
Right.
well, also, if you study the history of America, how America was created, all that stuff, then you should not have a problem with people you think immigrated to this country, even though, like you said, they've been here multiple generations. But for him to say, his country, meaning he thought that they were immigrants.
It's
right?
not any
Right.
more his country than it is theirs,
And it-
especially
Right.
with them being multiple
I
generations.
think if that was the concept, if everybody just accepted the fact that we all got here some kind of way, we are all immigrants some kind of
some
way.
came of choice, some
Right.
came
Some
in
of
change.
course.
Yeah,
Right.
and my neighbors are from Mexico, and they play music and they have late parties and stuff. But you know what? They pay for their house just like I pay for my house. So I don't have any right to tell them what kind of music they should play or whatever.
Man, truth be told, I'm gonna take a 6-pack of Corona over there and some Rotel dip and let's say what's happening.
Well,
That's
yeah,
just-
and they always make sure they send me some food.
Right,
so
they
I'm
send you
not
some-
gonna argue
right.
with them. But
You mean to tell me I got good neighbors and tacos, bruh? You don't get your. Let's move on. The next topic. We talked about this a little bit earlier.
Oh.
Intersectionality and all that kind of stuff. Miranda Kaiser, come on down. I won't smoke.
No smoke, no smoke. I
here
know
we
you don't want it.
I won't smoke with Miranda Kaiser.
Tell us
Here
why.
in North Carolina, in Durham, I won't smoke. She is the director, or maybe was the director, of the Love Wins Community Engagement Center. I'm gonna read you a Facebook post, and by the time I finish this Facebook post, I think you will understand why I want smoke.
it's a Facebook post by her.
No, the Facebook post is by a young lady named Imani.
Okay.
And so here it goes. Miranda Kaiser, I gave you more than one opportunity to be honest and accountable for the racist, violent, reprehensible thing you did to me and Tori Mosby. Yet you have continued to lie, gaslight us, and skirt accountability. I told you I would do this, and you refused to be accountable, so here it is. On June 30th, around 8 p.m., Tori and I were at a local bar just saying hi and enjoying downtown. That's when Miranda Kaiser came over to our table, inserted herself into our conversation, and started talking about something we were not. She mentioned if we knew another person in the community, in which Tori replied, "Yes, I know them, and they are a fucking racist." After about 30 seconds of conversation, Miranda attempted to high-five me, and I refused, as I have been at the brunt end of her racist narcissism on Facebook on more than one occasion. After about 30 more seconds of interaction, Tori Mosby and I left the bar. I wake up this morning to several missed calls and messages about how I am suspected to have physically assaulted Miranda. Please look at the screenshots below where she in explicit detail intentionally lies and portrays us as having attacked her. She even wished we were dead and called us light belt black. Bitch, what the fuck is that? Miranda was sloppy fucking drunk and fell out of her chair nearly an hour after we left. However, her story was that we kicked the chair from under her and jumped her. Apparently she beat our asses back. After speaking with several people that were contacted and reviewing security footage and eyewitness accounts, it was concluded that not only did we never lay hands on her, we were not on the premises when she fell out of her chair. I called Miranda directly where she denied everything. She called Bren, Tim, Effie, and Q liars by name. She said she never said she was attacked by us. The screenshots below show that you did completely fabricate a story, got dozens of people involved, and compromised the safety and livelihood of 2 black femmes who have literally done nothing to you. Lying on 2 fat black femmes and saying we physically assaulted a cisgendered white woman is absolutely reprehensible. How often are black femmes believed over white women? This is the South. You know very fucking well what you were doing by creating an entire fiction. You wanted to punish us for daring to speak up to you. You wanted to punish us for not indulging in your whiteness. You are a virulent, narcissistic racist, Miranda Kaiser. You are violent, unsafe, and certainly unfit to hold your position. I want to say that Tim and Ruby acted swiftly and fairly to this situation. I spoke to Tim on the phone directly. I nor anyone else at this bar will have to be subjected to her toxic energy and actions. I deeply appreciate this. Believe black femmes. We demand that Love Wins Community Engagement Center fire Miranda Kaiser effective immediately. Due to her clear pattern of racist violence, she is in no position to work with such vulnerable communities. We will hold Love Wins Community Engagement Center accountable in a process of restorative justice, which will lead to her being fired. If you do not fire her, it will be safe to assume that Love Wins Community Engagement Center is also a racist institution that protects and harbors racism and anti-blackness. I am making this post and going this hard because people love to jump down black femmes' necks when we say white women are not to be trusted. Y'all are the fucking cornerstone of white supremacy, and this proves it directly. I am hurt, angry, embarrassed, and frustrated that this white woman attempted to harm Tori and I this way. I will not let this shit slip. Make racists afraid again. Fire Miranda Kaiser.
Wow.
Now
I see why you want smoke.
Miranda. Bruh, do you realize how dangerous that is? Like, okay, so apparently these 2 women, Imani and Tori, are black women who are in the queer community, the LGBTQ plus community.
Right.
I know they've
Keep
added a
adding
couple
letters.
Yeah, I know they've added a couple more letters. I don't know. I don't necessarily know what those letters mean, so I don't want to disrespect the acronym.
Right.
But I know these are 2 women who are in the LGBTQ plus community. And this white woman comes to them who's well known in that community through her, I guess, community volunteerism and activism work. And she brings up a fellow white woman, I believe, and they say she's a racist. This woman's been accused of racism in the past. And she made up a whole story saying that these girls kicked her chair out from under her and jumped her when there's obviously security footage there. And you look at these screenshots, I mean, it's crazy. Like, she posted a picture. Okay, so here's what it is. So one of the screenshots, I'm gonna read it out. Somebody inboxes Miss Kaiser and says, Effie told me some people attacked you at Ruby. Are you okay? Miranda says, yep, nasty knee. The person says, yikes. She said, it's okay though. They were being mean about Effie and calling her a white supremacist. And I wasn't cool with that. She lives with the vulnerability of being a trans woman. There are levels there. It's not all one thing. So you lied about it. And so then she goes on to say, yeah, why would they say something like that about her? She said, yuck, yes, I know. Anyway, we got into a fight. And she posts a picture of the bruise on her leg, right? Then she says, just a knee, no big deal. I thought they were being cruel. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, I'm reading this stuff, and I'm trying to see where she said that. I just walked out back. She said, okay, so here's where her story goes. I just walked out back, and they were like, are you friends with Effie? She's a white supremacist. And then this girl flipped my chair over. light black, curly hair. Other person says, how fucking weird. Another black, light, curly haired girl and a boy. And then she said, I don't know, I just got a vodka and then some girls surrounded me and beat the shit out of me. But I beat the shit out of them. Fuck them. I wish they were dead. I beat the fuck out of them bitches. Now, here's what's really...
And this was at a public place.
Yeah,
supposedly.
this apparently happened at a public place.
Right. But there's all this fighting going on.
Yeah.
Right. But
Which doesn't shock me. I've seen some ass whoopings go down in bars before. But there's
people would have heard about it.
People would have heard about it. There would have been... The video camera would have showed it. Cell phone video.
The news.
Yeah. Police report.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I talk a lot about how some racists, I think, they don't really understand how stupid they are, and that mixed with your sense of entitlement to where nobody would question your story
Or your stupidity.
Well, true, yeah. Nobody questions it, so she didn't expect anybody to view any camera footage or anything. They should just take her word for it.
Oh, God. Speaking of stupid racists, this begins our segment of Make Racists Unemployed Again. We're going to start off with ID Adam.
Sound effect for that.
Make racists unemployed again. No. So we're going to start off with ID Adam. He was asking this lady what her address was at a pool in Winston-Salem here in North Carolina.
Right.
And the lady was like, I live in the area. Clearly, I have to show a card or scan my card to get in the pool area. What do you think? I broke in somebody's house to steal their pool card? Like, come on. And then he asked for ID, and she doesn't show him any ID, and so he calls the police because they're in the pool.
Right.
Now, you said something earlier when we were talking off the mic. Who are all these people that feel entitled to see my ID?
Right. That's an issue for me. It's not so much that it's an issue for me. I feel like it should be an issue for you. It should be a safety concern for you to feel like, you know, I can go up to a random person and require that they show me their ID. You're going to get more than what you ask for.
I'm not showing you my freedom papers.
You at the pool.
Right.
You at the pool. Who takes their wallet and stuff like that to the pool? Because you're not taking it in the pool and you don't want to leave it on the towel.
Now, I'm a unique case because, like, the thing is, I take my phone to the pool, but in my phone case allows me to put, like, cards in my phone.
Okay.
And so I'm a unique case.
Right. Yeah,
but I don't know anybody that takes their wallet to the pool. I don't know women that really take their purse to the pool like that.
Plus, I got a problem with him asking for her address. Because
Right.
what if you some kind of like just,
serial killer?
Right.
If you're a woman, I'm just saying it. If I'm a woman, I'm gonna be careful about giving some random dude my address. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Totally
Like,
understand.
I don't know you.
Now, it's a complete side note for a moment. I was at Foot Locker today. I saw some Nike slides, and they have like a pouch on the top, and you can put your debit card and stuff in it and zip it closed. And I low key liked them.
I was finna talk about you so bad if you had got them slides. Because she walked up to the slides.
That's just waiting for you to get robbed.
What's
You
the
know
little
what I
thing
mean?
that goes around?
I'm going to
your
knock you smooth out your shoes and take your shoes.
Well, no, I mean, I just wait till you go in the pool and just slide on by and pick up everybody's
What's the thing that
stuff.
goes around your waist now?
Fanny pack?
It's like a slide, ladies, with the fanny pack on the front, where normally it's the little Nike sign or whatever. It's like a fanny pack converted into a slide.
You can't do this if you're in a neighborhood with a Debo.
No, you can't.
If Debo is in your
it wasn't
neighborhood, you can't do
designed
that.
for
Yeah.
that
Or
type
Rollo.
of use.
Or Rollo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you do.
Okay, back to the story.
Okay,
I'm
back to the
sorry.
story. But yeah, if I'm a woman or a man and this ill-built dude with some Oakleys comes up to me asking me for my ID, are you the popo? If you don't get the hell up out my face,
Right.
like
I
who
pay
you supposed to
homeowners
be?
dues just like everybody else at this
Right.
pool.
The hell you supposed to be? Like, no, that's not flying. But he's apparently lost his job at Sunoco, and he posted. He had an interview,
On
like
TV.
a full
Yeah.
interview and all that, and talking about how he was sorry. No, you just sorry that it went viral and you lost your job. Sit your
Right.
dumb ass down.
You sorry you had to suffer the consequences.
Right.
But let this be a lesson, right? Because do I think he consciously picked her out because he was black? She was black? Probably not. It's the subconscious part of something about her doesn't fit here, right? Because he came
Right.
around to her twice,
Well, and here's the thing. I think part of it had to do because she was the only black person out there,
right?
and so he othered her.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I think until we, as a country, which really means white people, recognize that there's a subconscious piece that you have to be aware of. It's going to be hard to get ahead. These kind of things
Right.
are going to keep
Right.
happening until you realize that there's this subconscious piece. And I think the reason he went back to her twice, because obviously whatever address he gave her the first time must have been an address in that neighborhood. And then he came back to her a second time and asked her for her ID, right? That's either
And so my
racial
thing is,
profiling or
it's unconscious bias.
he's trying to get a
At
date,
my
right?
job,
Mhm.
right? At my job, we actually have training on unconscious bias, and I think that needs to happen in more places besides just my workplace. I think it needs to happen everywhere. Unconscious bias is a real thing. I have my own unconscious biases, and it was crazy because, like my
my story about the white dude in a sweatshirt
Yeah.
in the middle of
Yeah.
summer.
I mean, that
right.
would creep me out because I'm like, okay, so what are you hiding? And because
Right.
I conceal carry. And so, like, in the summertime, like, I might wear a loose fitting shirt so that, my weapon doesn't print on me, but I'm not going to be wearing a whole sweatshirt. So you might be carrying something massive. And so I don't know what that is. So I'm looking at you crazy. But I know, like, okay, so one of the things that they had us do in this unconscious bias class is they give us a sheet with 8 faces of various ages, nationalities, skin tones, and all that. And you're looking at it, and you have to give us a number on a scale of 1 to 5 on how comfortable you would be with this person and how intelligent you think this person is. And I realized that, first of all, I really don't like anybody. That was the first thing that I realized. 'Cause
That's
I was,
surprising.
Everybody's a 1 in my book.
yeah, I was uncomfortable with everybody for the most part. No, I give everybody a 3 because I try really, really hard to not judge people based on, like, just because you might look a certain way doesn't mean that this person looks a certain. It just mean this person's the same way, because I've had experiences with, for example, let me take one of my good friends, Big Chili Dog. That's what I'm gonna call him right now, Big Chili Dog. He's a tall 6-foot+ white guy with a military style haircut, who sunburns real easy. He's a buff guy. Me and him are thick as thieves. We're very close. But then I've got another person I can think about who I can't stand, who looks similar to him. So for every person I've had a negative experience with, I can think of somebody that I've had a positive experience with. Except now there's this, I realized that I have this very singular unconscious bias that before I even realized that I had written how uncomfortable I was with this person. And it's with white women of a certain age that have a certain look. If you're an older white woman, I know that throughout my childhood and even in parts of my adulthood, I have been disrespected and treated very negatively by them, and it's so strange that I feel uncomfortable with that, because the one woman who I credit with literally saving me from myself as a child, as a adolescent about to make a bad life decision and go down the wrong path, was an older white woman who's actually my Facebook friend. She was the first person that made me think that I actually was as smart as people were telling me I was, and actually gave me some hope for being something other than a loser. But but then she had colleagues who treated me like less than, and there were so many people throughout my life who treated me as less than. So I acknowledge that I have that unconscious bias, and so I don't necessarily go out of my way to ensure that that doesn't come out, but I definitely make sure that I'm aware of how I'm treating people when I'm talking to them or dealing with them, especially in professional and work settings, because I never want somebody to feel the way that maybe somebody else made me feel. And I don't think people think like that.
No, they're not aware of that bias. They're just not aware of it, and so you're not
And a lot of
thinking
people
of
choose
how,
not to be aware
right,
too.
True. They turn a blind eye to it.
Yeah.
Well, and to your point, one thing I've noticed is that older white ladies just tend to operate in their own privilege. Like, I see them just walk past people in line all the time, or
Right.
don't stop at stop signs at Target, just drive on through as if pedestrians supposed to know that you're not gonna stop.
They'll girl you and boy you real quick too.
Oh, yeah.
And
Hey girl. Hey girl. Who are you talking to?
Right.
No.
and you're supposed to accept it. It's because for them it's just the norm, and they don't mean any harm.
Right.
That's just
But that's what they grew up seeing.
right.
Like, my dad was born in 1935 in South Carolina. So he would tell us stories about if you're walking down the sidewalk and a white lady is walking up the sidewalk, you were expected to cross the street or go down the street till she passed by, then you can go back on the sidewalk and start back walking.
And truth be told, that was the safest thing for them to do. Not just a respect thing. That was the safest thing to do, because you don't even want to be perceived as even trying to be friendly with, or at the very least, disrespecting a white woman back then. And that's why the young lady Imani, in her statement, she said that they were the cornerstone of white supremacy, because a lot of the violent racist actions that were undertaken against black people, not just black men, not just the Emmett Tills of the world, but against black people in general, such as Claudette Colvin and Rosa Parks and all these other folks, was because it was at the behest of, or because white women were uncomfortable in the past. And even now, as you see with Barbecue Becky and Pool Patty and all these folks, it's because when they get uncomfortable, ooh, excuse me, ooh, I keep burping. They keep expecting, they want somebody to immediately, as you said, come and enforce a rule or make you kneel to their level of comfort.
Right.
And that's really what it is. Speaking of which, want to get on through make racists unemployed again. In Memphis, Tennessee, we have a new Pool Patty. This woman was apparently the property manager at a apartment complex. She's claimed to be the property manager at the apartment complex, where this woman was there with her boyfriend and her son, I think. And as the video starts, her boyfriend is sitting there. He's just sitting on the side of the pool, and he has socks on. And apparently the woman came over and told her that, he was like, there are no socks allowed at the pool, that you were supposed to wear proper pool attire, which means, no shirts, no socks, and no hats in the pool. Meanwhile, if you look at the video, there are two white guys in the pool, standing in the pool, holding, like drinking beer, like putting stuff in the cooler and stuff like that. And they're with her group of folks, and they have hats on. And then she shows another group over on another side of the pool with hats on. And so now, personally, I don't think this guy's feet weren't in the pool. So I don't think he ever put his socks in the pool. I think she was coming over there, and she was like, I'm not coming. She's like, okay, so why are you talking to us and not anybody else? We're the only people of color out here, and you talk to us like this. And then she calls the police because this man has on socks at the pool. She's no longer employed by that apartment complex, by the way.
Good to know.
You call the police because somebody got socks on, bro?
I mean, my thing, is it worth it though?
Well, okay. As somebody who hates to see other people's feet, I'm glad this man had on socks. I think more people should wear socks when they just walk around a pool or wherever. It's my personal opinion. So I'm with him. I'm start petition. It's my new hero. What's the dude's name? That's what I need.
Well, no, the woman's name is Camry Porter,
okay.
But I don't know her boyfriend's name.
We're gonna track him down.
Yeah, we're gonna track him down and give him
Sock
an award.
Sammy.
That's right.
Sock
Sammy. I don't know.
Hashtag. That's right.
Sock foot Sammy.
That's right. He's gonna be the poster boy of my new movement. Cover your toes.
Right.
Hold on,
they
man.
have a thing now. There are some sandals that look like they have like feet, the toes
Really?
and the toenails painted
All right.
on top. So for people who don't need to show.
So you can cover your feet and make a political statement at the same time now. I love this.
I'm with that. 100%.
Socks at the pool
Socks
for
at
the
the pool.
rest of summer 18.
That's okay. So that's our new hashtag. Socks to the pool, all summer 18. That's right next to bald headed hoe shit, all summer 18. We doing bald headed hoe shit, all summer 18.
Can we add scallywag to it?
Okay.
Bald
I got to
head,
figure out how to spell that
scallywag.
to make the hashtag work. So
Yeah, just sound it out.
Bald headed hoe shit, all summer 18.
No, but like real quick though, it's the trade off work. Like if I just hate if I'm a white person and there's a black person nearby, and I just feel like for whatever reason I don't want you in my area, in my space, So I say, hey, I know the rules. The rules are you shouldn't wear socks at the pool. So I approach you, tell you, hey, you shouldn't have your socks on, blah, blah, blah. You need to leave. Although everybody else has something they're doing that's breaking the rules also. You're going to lose your job
Here's
for
the thing.
that? Like, that's the trade-off?
There's tact. I think a lot of these people lacked tact. Like you can so the guy asking old girl for her address and all that, like, okay, pool Nazi, get the fuck away from me. Like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Kind of weirdo are you? Get away from me. But the guy with the socks, I think if she had gone over to him and say, hey, you know, I don't want to bother you. I don't mean to like kind of ruin your day or anything like that. But, you know, part of the rules is to not have socks in the pool. It's just kind of a health concern because, you know, your socks pick up germs and things of that from outside. And when you put that in the pool, you introduce it to the environment. It's a way to say it so people understand why you don't want socks specifically in the pool. Now, if his feet are never in the pool with the socks on, it's no issue. And people, if you approach somebody like that, they be like, oh, no, I'm not putting my feet in the pool. You be like, oh, okay, cool. Now, I was just making sure, you know, I don't want you to get, you know, I don't want nobody else saying that to you or people or anybody be uncomfortable about that.
Right. Or you could leave him alone until he possibly got prepared to get in the pool and then say, hey, just wanted to tell you, you know.
Hey, bro, you know, just I'm kind of uncomfortable with you having socks in the pool because, you know, I mean, that's kind of unsanitary, bro.
I bet he had on Jordan shorts.
Moving right along, since we talking about stereotypes and racists, Jordan shorts.
He had on Jordan shorts
wrong
and
with you?
some slides.
Well, see, all these stories are breaking stereotypes because stereotype is that black people don't swim.
Very true.
Right.
I cannot swim. I am
Me
that
either.
stereo. You can't swim. Can you swim?
No, you know, there's a whole documentary about black people and our inability to swim and why we don't.
Note to self.
No, seriously,
No,
it's on
I'm-
YouTube. I
I'm
watched
gonna
part
look
of it.
up. Like, I really want to look that up.
Some of it has something to do like with our cultural, I guess, well, lack thereof, since we've been in America. And then as time went on, when
Yeah, the
pools
last-
and things were like really popular in the summers, black kids weren't allowed to go swimming, whether it was at a beach or whether it was at a public pool.
And there's a photo of a man
Pouring bleach. Yeah.
No, pouring acid.
Oh,
a
yeah,
certain
with
type
acid.
of acid into the pool because people had a pool in to protest the discrimination at the pool. He poured acid in the pool to the horror of this one black woman's face, whose face I'll never forget. And what makes it so bad, he got public sympathy and was seen as the victim after that. You pour acid in a pool full of humans.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, speaking of other races, Michael Marcellus, shout out to him. He's now unemployed, 29 years old, was working at Northrop Grumman, which is a huge defense contractor, and has a security clearance. Now, as somebody who's had a security clearance from my time in the military, and as somebody who knows just a little bit, not a whole lot about security clearances, I know for a fact that I could not have two things in being a security clearance. I could not, number one, have really bad credit, and number two, I could not be involved with any sort of gangs publicly or any violent factions. However, this man was involved with an entirely violent white supremacist group and was videotaped and photographed at the quote-unquote Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville and in other places committing violent acts in the name of white supremacy and racism. And he was able to keep his job at Northrop Grumman and his security clearance for quite some time up until this article got published on July 5th that pretty much just laid all his stuff to bear. And the people at Northrop Grumman knew he was involved in this racist stuff. And they didn't fire him until this particular ProPublica article came out that's on our Facebook page. It comes out that on July 6th, he was actually fired from his job as an aerospace engineer. I have one thing to say about this. Oftentimes when we talk about the rise of Donald Trump and we talk about the resurgence of racism in this country, we automatically assume that the people who are doing this are ignorant, inbred, stupid, uneducated bastards.
Yep.
This man is an entire aerospace engineer, and he is out here flying his racist flag and engaging in violent activities in the advancement of white supremacy and racism in this country. And he's an entire aerospace engineer with a defense contractor and has a security clearance. This isn't an ignorant, well, he may be ignorant in certain ways.
Right.
He's not stupid. He's not unintelligent. I am not an aerospace engineer. I realize that aerospace engineers have a wealth of knowledge about science, physics, and a breadth of other things that I will never possess. And so they are not stupid by any stretch of the imagination. And so we have to get out of this mindset that people who are racist are automatically stupid. No, they're very well aware they're very intelligent. A lot of them are very intelligent, but they're also very well aware that their views are reprehensible and morally indefensible, but they choose them because it makes them comfortable or there's some sort of emotional tie to this level of hatred. Period.
Right.
That's it, long and short of it. So,
Well, and to your point, I think we also tend to think of racist as being in a particular part of the country, but just the stories you've gone through today, Maryland, the South, Georgia, West Coast with San Francisco, this is everywhere. It's not just one part of the country.
Right.
A great point is that this is popping up everywhere, and to your point, right, that the new administration is sort of
emboldening these
right,
folks.
which is kind of good because in a way it helps them expose themselves. So I'd rather know how you feel than you smile in my face.
Now, here's another thing, and since you pointed that out, I want to make a point to say that this guy, Michael Marcellus, worked at the Redondo Beach facility. That's in California for
Okay.
Northrop Grumman. So, yeah, this is another West Coast guy. The Pacific Northwest has actually been a hotbed of racist activity for quite some time now. A lot of the major white supremacist, white nationalist groups have planted roots in the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon, parts of Northern California, stuff like that. So that's something that people should be aware of as well. Want to kind of get through a couple of these other things. So I want to get to the last topic for the day, so that Miss EP can
Oh goodness.
give us all the smoke. Another here's a story that I'm just going to touch on this because I want people to keep track of it. James Washington in Portland, Oregon. He was a 45-year-old U.S. Navy vet who was shot and killed by Portland State University police on Friday. Now, we watched the video all together, and James Washington had a valid concealed carry permit for the state of Oregon. He had a firearm on him when he was attempting to break up a fight outside of a bar near Portland State University. His firearm hit the ground as he was breaking up the fight. And according to witness statements, his firearm hit the ground. Nobody says he tried to pick it up or whether it was in his hand. So the last thing that we saw in the video was him hitting the ground. I saw the firearm on his hip as he was breaking up the fight. You hear the police say, drop the gun, and then fire at him, according to witness statements. And so it's kind of suspicious. If the firearm hit the ground, and we saw him hit the ground too, and his arms were clearly on somebody else, don't know how he could have been picking up the gun while still breaking up a fight and the gun being on the ground. It's really kind of strange. So just want to keep track of the Jason Washington shooting in Portland, Oregon.
So I think we know that at this point, any statement similar to drop your weapon or drop the gun is just a prerequisite to the shooting.
Or
That
how they
validates
punching you
it.
in the face and saying stop resisting.
Right. That's
Right.
So you beat my ass. I'm trying. My natural thing is to defend myself.
Right.
What is wrong with you?
And did you say these were campus police, right?
Yes, they were campus
Okay.
police.
Now, obviously, don't know about this particular school, but my experience with campus police in various places has always been that they could never really make it as real police. They probably should be security guards at the mall kind of people.
I don't understand why they carry firearms.
no.
Right.
I know that where we went to school at for undergrad, the campus police there was an actual certified, qualified law enforcement agency. They have to go through these tests and get a certification and all that. The ALEA is the Alabama Law Enforcement Association, and every law enforcement association that has that seal means that you have to have certified officers on your staff, and those officers are then certified to carry a firearm. So you have to actually go to a police training academy. You have to go to one that's I know the city of Birmingham, where I'm from, they have their own police academy and all that stuff. So those guys had to actually go to the academy before that. I don't know what the qualifications are in other places. I know that certain police departments, from what I've been told, talking to some of my law enforcement friends and associates, some departments are known for taking guys who washed out of bigger departments because they don't have to pay them as much. And you got somebody on the street. Anybody is better than nobody in that thought process. There are certain departments that are known for being second chance departments, where you maybe wash out of a certain area, you can go somewhere else and get a second chance. And so you may be a good cop, you just couldn't hack it in that place so you can hack it somewhere else. But I think that there should be, first of all, I think that there should be higher educational standards for police officers. I think that there should be a much more stringent psychological evaluation. And I think that if you pay people more to be police officers and deal with some of the stuff they have to deal with, you would probably get a better quality candidate. That's just me, though.
I agree.
Also, I think we have to change how we police.
Right.
You know,
That
but
part.
that's a whole nother
That part.
story.
Let's not even go there.
Right.
Let's,
Sorry.
let's step on into the next story. The white teen in Louisiana who, and I think
Give
he was
his name
speeding.
if we can. You got his name?
He's 18 years old. Matthew Martin.
Okay.
Matthew Martin is his name. 18 years old in Louisiana. Ran over Cheryl L. Lewis Jr. on Highway 171 in Louisiana. He hit him with the truck, killed him, and then he posts on Snapchat that, you know, he hit somebody. He said, "Y'all, I just hit a whole guy on the highway." Somebody, you know, asked him who it was. He said, "Some nigger." His friend said, "How did the Chevy take it?"
Wow.
He says, "Effed it up pretty good." Then he says, "It'll buff out. The guy died on impact or what?" He said, "Yes, sir. No, he died on the way to the hospital." So you knew the guy died, and you gonna sit here and jokingly say, you know, you hit some nigger.
Well, somebody asked how your car took it.
Yeah, that was their response. How the
Let's
Chevy
back
take
up.
it.
I mean, you know, I think, you know, we just talked about two people dying. Like these are somebody's brother,
Son.
sister, right? Son, daughter. Somebody died. Like there's no comeback from that.
Yeah, and you joking. You
Right.
say some nigger.
Not like you said, oh, I bumped some dudes, I knocked some dudes bumper off.
Right.
Yeah,
And
no.
how old was he again?
The kid, the guy that was driving, I'm not gonna call him a kid because
He's an adult.
he's an adult. He's 18 years old. You know, if Trayvon Martin can be treated like an adult, this guy absolutely can. Matthew Martin was 18. The person that he killed was 31 years old.
Well, you know, I have this, I hate to call it a conspiracy theory, but I think a lot of the whole racism issues that we're having now in the Make America Great Again concept is not necessarily for the older generations. I think we have created a breeding ground for younger, uneducated people who really don't understand the scope of which this reaches. You know, I think they really don't get it. I was recently watching a video on social media, and there's a black mother, and she looks to be pregnant at the time, and she's also at the park with her son, who looks to be maybe 4 or 5 years old, and she takes him to get on the slide, and a group of kids at the top of the steps to climb up to get on the slide who look to be maybe a few years older than him, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old or so. They block the entranceway, so he can't come up the steps any further to go up to then go down the slide. So eventually he just stands there, and she turned around, and none of the parents came to correct the children or request that they move. One mother did. They were all, you know, white children. I don't know if they were here or possibly even in another country, I don't know. But one parent came and moved her child. No one else came. So they still didn't let the little boy up. Then they started hitting him in his head within reach. So the mother took him down and walked away. And she walked to another area where he could get on something similar to like a seesaw. They then decided to get off the slide equipment, come over, and they started yelling, "You're not white, you're not white."
I
These are
fight
babies.
kids.
Right.
I
But
fight
I'm just
kids.
thinking, like, we've created a comfort level that is not so much that old races can continue to be racist openly and without consequence. We've created a breeding ground for children
To be racist.
to be racist. Like, that's what I think that's the issue that people are missing.
And you know, it's another thing about that is that I've actually watched two mothers on social media, two mothers of color, talk about how their children, they take their children to the playground and they watch them especially hard to see how the other children interact
with them, right?
And one of them told me that their daughter, you know, left the playground in tears one day because the white kids would not
Nope.
interact with her. And I was like, these are babies.
Right. But that's my point. I think we're missing it. It's not about the older generations
think
and
we're
them
missing
being
it.
comfortable. It's the younger people.
Well, and to your point, like back to the story about the guy who killed somebody with his car. How entitled? How screwed up was he raised
Mhm.
that you do something like that, no matter who you hit, and you go on Snapchat?
Right.
That's the generation.
Snapchat?
And that's the
Like-
scary part.
Like, you know, like I know a guy who hit somebody on a motorcycle once because he couldn't see it coming or whatever, and the guy died. And he would not drive for like 2 months because he just couldn't get over it. You know, I can't imagine. Let me go on social media and
And letting everybody know I just
Right.
killed
You take younger
Right.
generations who are completely, they're fed off of social media interactions. We have this false sense of relationships with people. We're completely removed from what it almost feels like to be human. We're
But you gotta
desensitized
you
so
gotta
much.
be entitled. Like, it's somewhere your parents missed the boat if this is your reaction to anything like that.
Mhm.
Like, you know, as a parent, I can say that.
Well, that as a parent, that's an issue. And then when you create this social environment that allows it,
and even celebrates it.
right?
You said something earlier about desensitization. Let's stick a pin in that because I want to come back to that in just a second. We gotta. I'm gonna get through these next couple ones really quickly. In Tuscaloosa, Alabama, home of my alma mater, the University of Alabama, our alma mater, University of Alabama.
Roll Tide.
Roll
Tide.
Tide. The campus, the alumni chapter there, has filed a racial discrimination lawsuit against a restaurant that I ate at a couple of times when I was down there, Cypress Inn, well-known like restaurant down there. They claimed to be discriminated against, where the guy said, you know, that they placed a deposit for an event, then said, you know, the representative from the restaurant said that we weren't aware that you were an all-black group, and we've had problems with your kind before. I'm not gonna say this is a slam dunk, but because it's not, no lawsuit in America, especially dealing with discrimination in this environment, ever
In
is.
Alabama, especially.
Especially
right?
in Alabama, right? But I think that if they can prove this, the Capitals will probably own Cypress Inn.
Which is crazy to me. Having lived there, you know, for a while and gone to school there, everyone is aware of the Cypress Inn, and you know, it's a pretty upscale restaurant. It's nice. I don't see them not being informed about anything not related. I mean, related to the University of Alabama. That includes
Considering it's an alumni
fraternities,
chapter,
sororities.
yeah. But I mean, considering an alumni chapter, I don't know how they could look at an alumni chapter. And they said that their outside security consultant said that they would have a problem with it. They wouldn't allow them to do this. But I'm like, you look at the grad chapter there. My cousin is in the grad chapter down there, and there are a couple other folks I know in the grad chapter down that way. And I'm just like, how can you look at these guys, all these young professionals and pastors and city workers and attorneys and doctors and be like, oh, we've had problems with your kind before. You
Plus-
see these folks every single day in your restaurant.
Right. Plus, you said they paid a deposit.
Yeah.
And you and I both know, before you have any event at anything, they ask to see your insurance paperwork.
Right.
So what kind of problems you had? You ain't had
No, they waited to find a loophole.
Yeah.
They waited to find a loophole. Is we'll accept the deposit because we don't want them to say we're discriminating, right? Go ahead, take the application, possibly take the deposit, check their insurance, get everything squared away. We'll find a loophole on the back end.
Right.
That still is going to backfire.
Right.
That's not okay.
Right.
Well, hopefully people boycott that restaurant.
I know a lot of people have already said they're not going back.
Okay.
So, next up, just putting a pin in this one. You guys think about it. The police have said they're close to making an arrest in the Tupac murder.
Next.
Oh, and did you know a movie is coming out September 7th
Yes.
about who murdered Biggie? Yeah.
Just,
yeah.
let
let's
it go.
move
Well,
on.
okay, Tupac thing, you know, we knew in 1996
Should.
what happened with. Nah, come
Should
on,
have,
man.
dude. Should
No,
did.
Okay. I hate to
Suge's
say
still
it.
alive. Don't put that out there.
And I'm totally not just, you know, dismissing anything Tupac related, Biggie related. Totally a fan, right? I don't want to hear about you arresting somebody for the murder of Tupac now. You haven't, you know, charged any of these police officers with killing these young black men. You're not going to pacify me with arresting somebody for
And
shooting
that's
Tupac.
And that's the benediction. We're going to move on that statement. Chris Brown has been arrested for felony assault in Florida. It was based on a felony battery charge involving a nightclub photographer last year. Chris Brown really trying to be Bobby Brown, really, really hard. Next up, the Republican Party of North Carolina has a candidate that said God is a racist and Jewish people all descend from Satan.
This is
They
what I want
just
to smoke
now. Here's the
with.
thing. Here's the thing. So he made it into the running for State House District 48, and only on what was it, Tuesday, like June something, did they withdraw their support for him.
Right.
How did he have your support in the first place? Oh, because you agree with him, probably.
I mean, Trump made it.
Good point.
Move right along.
I think there's our answer, right?
Move right along.
That's no different from the guy who said he's a pedophile. Go ahead.
So this mom was in the car with her kid. So this mom got out of the car. Her toddler's from the car. This guy jumps in the car, tries to carjack it. The mother jumps into action, jumps in the car, tells the guy, "Please stop! Don't do this." When he refused, she pulled a gun from her glove compartment and shot him in the head. Personally, I believe justice is served, and that's a self-correcting error. He will never try to carjack anybody again with with kids in the car.
She being
Shout out
charged
to Mom.
anything?
I do not believe so.
Oh, okay.
36-year-old Ricky Wright was who got shot. I think he's still alive. Yeah. He's been charged with 2 counts of unlawful restraint and unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. He got away, but he crashed into a telephone pole after he got shot. So he didn't really get away. He just crashed into a telephone
Right. You got
pole. A teenager in, where is this? In Texas. Says he was assaulted and had his Make America Great Again hat taken by a guy. Personally, I don't see the problem because according to witnesses in the Whataburger, the kids were joking about hanging black people. They said they
I
wanted
hope they were joking.
Right.
they weren't joking. He said they wished the movie with The Purge was real, but only against African Americans and Latinos. They said they wanted it to be legal for white people to kill any other race for the 4th of July. So somehow, and I watched this play out, people have made this kid a sympathetic figure, saying that the guy was wrong. I think that more racists need to get their ass whooped. I don't care what age you are. You know by the age of 16 that sitting in Whataburger joking about murdering black people and Latinos in Texas is wrong. Don't see the problem.
Plus, what I saw in the video, the dude just grabbed a hat and like threw a drink at it. Like, I mean, that's really stretching.
And my thing is, it's for y'all and one of him.
Yeah, that's really stretching.
If you really want smoke, and it's for y'all and one of him, y'all gonna go get that smoke.
They didn't want smoke.
They didn't want no smoke. They just wanted to sit over there and feel entitled to say all that racist stuff and thought nobody was gonna say something to them.
Right.
And so when they saw somebody had the balls to walk up to 4 guys talking that trash, they realized that they weren't really about their life like they thought they were. And they talked about they wish the purge was real. So speaking of the purge, the movie The First Purge came out yesterday. No, Friday. I'm sorry. We're recording on Sunday. So Friday, The First Purge came out. I'm a Purge movie fan for 2 reasons. I like the action, the kind of suspense that goes along with it, but also some of the social, cultural commentary in it. And so I'm looking at Miss EP right now.
Yeah, I got to listen to you too because
Hey.
any movie I see is animated at
So-
this point.
So clearly, I'm looking at you, Miss EP, and clearly, you feel some type of way about this movie. So tell me what your thought process is here, because clearly, you won't smoke.
Yes, I want all the smoke. So, I mean, my first thoughts are I didn't pay any attention to any of the previews for the movie. I haven't watched any of the other purges. And I've always been under the assumption that it was just a movie about people getting to do whatever crime they wanted, kill people included, for a day or something, and that's it. I just thought it was like just a gory kind of just, I don't want to call it stupid, but kind of pointless movie, right?
Like this is one of those serious action, kind of like Fast and Furious, like a different
Yeah,
plot
it's just
each
a different
time.
right.
But with
I
the
just
same
thought that
premise.
was it. I thought that was it. I did not know at all that there were any type of cultural undertones in the and it wasn't even an undertone. It was just flat out, just blatant, just there, and I had to swallow it the entire time. I did not expect to go in that movie and watch a depiction of racism being allowed, justified, no
Encouraged.
consequence, encouraged on the screen. Like I would not have bought a ticket to go watch that. Like that's my reality to watch on a daily basis, not necessarily something that I directly may deal with on a daily basis, but indirectly I do, whether it's another black person I see on social media that has suffered racism in some kind of way, or a family member I may know, or a friend. But I would not have bought a ticket to go watch racism on the big screen.
The over dramatization and almost fetishization.
Yes.
of
I'm sorry,
racism
we
is where you
didn't
saw
say
it.
spoiler alert. But
So, is this where these dudes are getting the idea that they're talking about at Whataburger?
right.
It's possible.
I-
If you look at The Purge through the other movies, I'm like I told you, I'm a fan of the series, and I watched the first one. And the reason the first one fascinated me so much is because we're often taught that violence is only something, and if we're not explicitly taught this, it's shown to us and implied that violence is something that only poor people do, and something that only occurs in poor neighborhoods. And so the first Purge movie, we looked at, show upper class white people committing violence against one another for the sake of attempting to murder a poor homeless black person. And so we saw this. It wasn't even a white savior complex type thing that we see some of these movies express. And so that was the first one I watched. The second one I watched is where they introduced, the second and third one is where they really introduced the idea of the government pushing a purge and, killing poor people, poor brown and black people in the community. Now, one thing that the purge takes to almost an extreme level is showing, one, the difference in classes, showing how rich people are often insulated from certain levels of violence and certain things based on the fact that they do have money. The second thing that it shows is that any policy that is enacted by the U.S. government often disproportionately affects poor people and often disproportionately affects black and brown people. And so that's what I liked about the movie.
Negatively affects,
of course. And that's what I liked about the movie, and that's what I saw in the Purge films, is that this was a cultural commentary on that and showed the strength of people to resist from both an underground as well as an overt sense. With this movie being called The First Purge, what this looked like to me is a violent version of what we saw happen with crack in South Central Los Angeles. So, spoiler alert, the premise behind this film is that this is the first purge, and what they do, they localize it to Staten Island, New York. And they tell people that they can be paid if they participate in the purge and stay on the island. If you stay on Staten Island and you sign up to participate in the purge, we'll give you $5,000. Now, where have black people heard that before? Oh, a little place called Tuskegee.
And the more you quote unquote participated,
the more you participate,
more
the
you
more
got
money
paid.
you get. We've heard that in Tuskegee. We've heard that in hundreds of health trials, so to speak, that go on all over the country, even in some places to this day. And so then, as the purge begins, we literally only have one murder. Now, here's what I wanted to touch on, what you said earlier, how people are so attached to social media and these kids are so desensitized. As soon as that murder happened, it went viral. And so you literally see people who are in this war zone that is the purge experiment zone sharing it and smiling and almost with a level of overjoyed incredulity, saying, "Yo, you see this on the phone? Like, yo, look at what happened." And they're watching this murder. And I know I see the same thing in my everyday life, that we have become desensitized to dead black and brown bodies in the street, especially when it is done via state-sanctioned violence. Like, we saw the photos of Michael Brown laying face down in the street on the hot pavement for 4 hours. And here's my thing. Here's another thing about that. So we also saw the news and how, 24-hour wall-to-wall news cycle, people see it as entertainment because it's now news. The news is now infotainment. There's a large collective of people out there who are quite literally entertained by black pain. They really are. They share the picture of Trayvon Martin's dead body in Sanford, Florida, and laugh. They share the picture of Michael Brown and laugh. When we're upset, they laugh and they enjoy it and they smile, and it is for their entertainment. They see it as entertaining. And so that's an aspect of it that I saw in the movie. And so you take that and you're looking at a history of American violence, and then you brought something up when we're talking off air where the lady says, they're not killing each other.
Right. So they were monitoring the purge activity through the contact lenses that the participants wore. And so they had video footage of everything that was going on. So when the first kill happened, they could monitor that. They could see that there wasn't any real violent activity happening.
People was just partying.
People were partying. There were a couple block parties that went off. There were looting and some vandalism or whatever going on. But people were not actually killing each other. And I kind of missed the very beginning. So I was wondering, was the concept behind the experiment, as they called it, was it supposed to be, I guess, a way to eradicate the violent people within the area, to allow them to kill each other technically?
Well, the premise behind the purge is that you allow people one solid 12-hour block every year to get out all of their rage and aggression and anger, to the point where if they feel the need to kill somebody, they can, and do it legally. And it's a cathartic experiment that allows you to get out your rage and anger and purge. The purge is not a adjective to use for the people being killed. The purge is you supposed to be able to cleanse your soul by purging the darkness from your heart and from your mind on that 12-hour period. It's almost like the same premise as what people thought Halloween was.
Right, but at the same time, you're saying you're purging it, but are you not adding to it? Because now you have to visualize the face of the person you just murdered.
That's not a consideration. When you're dealing with a depraved heart, the aftermath does not matter. And we're dealing with people who have depraved hearts.
Yeah, Snapchat talking about what they just did.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And so the thing is, but what that said to me is that, people are of the impression, and this is like what I said earlier, is that the idea is that crime and violence is localized to black and brown people in impoverished communities, and they think we're out here killing each other just for the sake of killing. I will say this. I will say that 90% of the murders that happen in black and brown communities are murders of, one, like crimes of passion, or two, murders of economic opportunity.
Right.
People dying over money.
Yeah, so piggybacking up, we didn't get to finish the point about in the purge, the numbers, there was nothing happening. There were no violent crimes. There weren't very many murders. And they were saying, that the projected numbers were off of where they thought people would participate. And so they ended up calling in the mercenaries.
Wait, I hadn't got there yet.
Okay.
I hadn't got there yet. And so what they did was, did you notice that they used the projects as a litmus test as to how violent people were going to be? Poor people don't want to be poor.
No.
Number one. Poor people
Good point.
Poor people also don't want to be violent because they don't want to go to jail. And they know that the system will hammer them harder than anyone else. Poor people aren't inherently violent. And if you're in a housing project, it's safe to assume a lot of times that you are poor, on the poorer end of the spectrum. And so poor people aren't just out here killing poor people for the sake of killing each other. Nobody does that.
You honestly don't have that need. You're not that unhappy, to be honest. You want to live a better life. But I speak from my own personal experience where I say, growing up, I knew we didn't have the most, but I wasn't sitting around sad. I was happy as a kid. I didn't have the most name brand stuff that I wanted to have, but me and my friends and stuff, we grew up, we had fun, we played games. You didn't think about the fact, oh my gosh, I'm poor. Like, I'm just walking around full of hate and I'm agitated all day. That's not it.
So the reality is that people who are poor sell drugs because it's financial opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because they're inherently darker, uglier, more violent, or anything like that. It's because of the financial benefits.
We talked one day about how some of the most religious people
are drug dealers.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with morality, them having less morals or being inherently darker in their souls than anybody. It's really an economic thing.
The violence just comes along with it. It's almost like it's part of your job, honestly.
And so it's an occupational hazard.
Mm-hmm.
That's
exactly.
what it is. And so what you said, where you were going was when they realized that these poor people weren't just killing each other for the sake of killing each other, and that these poor people, these poor black and brown people weren't just inherently violent. What did they do? They got these mercenaries. They got these groups.
They were for hire
from other countries even to come in and stoke violence. Guys who pretended to be the Klan.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys probably, there was one group who looked like the Klan, then there was another group who was the Klan, then there was another group of guys who just were literal just mercenaries. And what was the first place they attacked? The church. They came into the church and they killed all those people, babies, adults, people who were just seeking to find refuge. They killed the church. And then after they killed people in the church, they were going through killing the roving, just people who were out there hanging out, minding their own business.
But they had targeted areas.
Yeah, they had targeted areas where
the
dense populations were. And then they went to the projects.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when they got to the projects, they went floor by floor, and it was eerie to me to see that. And the reason it was so eerie is that when you look at the stormtroopers, so to speak, they were dressed like the military guys. They had on their, as we could say in the military, full battle rattle. They had their flak vests and their helmets, and they had face masks on and goggles and all that stuff. But they were led by this one guy who had on this leather face mask, and he had on this long black trench coat, and he had an armband on, and he looked like a Nazi SS officer. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what he looked like.
So basically, your description sounds like a character from G.I. Joe. But go ahead.
He did. No, that's an accurate depiction. That's exactly who he looked like. And so the thing is, though, when you think about, now there was a moment earlier in the movie where this guy tried to capture the heroine in the movie, and he was reaching up and he was grabbing on her genitalia, and so she maced him and she ran away and she yelled, "Pussy grabbing motherfucker," which very thinly veiled shot at Donald Trump. It didn't specifically say Trump, but you know where that comes from. But then you see how this administration openly courted, sought the approval of, appreciation, and respect for these literal Nazis and Nazi sympathizers in this country. I mean, we have Stephen Miller, who is quite literally is Hans Zimmer, the 21st century version. If he could orchestrate a Holocaust, I guarantee you he would do it in the White House as a senior advisor. Mm-hmm. We have people with white supremacist leanings in the White House. And to see this being a government-sanctioned function and have those parallels to the Nazi party really was a big thing for me. Now, there was this one scene in the movie where you looked at me and you said you wanted to throw your cup at the screen. And in the middle of the Purge, they're showing all these scenes of violence. And the Purge has always done this. The Purge series has always done this. They have these cutaways where they do just a standalone scene that's a cultural critique of sorts. There is a black man who is obviously bloodied and has been beaten to within an inch of his life. And he is on a baseball field. And he is crawling to first base. And he is flanked on both sides by guys in police officer costumes, holding billy clubs and weapons of different sorts, and they have on leather face masks. and they are walking up on him, obviously to kill him, as he is crawling to first base. And then you see a wide angle shot with him surrounding him, getting ready to beat him, and it cuts away to something else. So we know they killed him simply as he was crawling to first base.
I think that was the thing. The whole entire scene did it for me. The buildup of the different groups being portrayed in the movie was an issue for me. You know, you had the guys that looked like Nazis, and you had the guys that looked like the Klan, and you had the guys that were just disguised to look like they were part of gangs from the area, but they were not. And then when it showed the police officers also, I was like, damn, you're just going to include every group in this movie that I should be reminded of how inferior I am to all of these different, or how I should feel like I'm inferior to all of these different groups.
Now, there's another element there that, and I want to say this, and we already in an hour and a half, so I want to go and get out of here. Another element there. So there's the hero of the movie, so to speak, black man. He's a drug dealer. Kind of a drug dealer with a heart of gold, so to speak. You know, kind of cares about his people, but as we said earlier, people sell drugs for economic opportunity and not because of any sense of morality or immorality. Because people gonna use drugs whether it's legal or illegal.
Right.
We know that for a fact. So his right-hand man, Seven, which I found very interesting, that his right-hand man's name is Seven, and considering what Seven went through in the movie, he survived. Found that amazing. Seven was responsible for getting their arsenal together, and he says that their gun supplier came through with a whole bunch of new weaponry this week, whole lot of it, the newest stuff with the newest tech, and it was real cheap, so I told him give me all of it. And so in this scene, they're loading up their guns and getting ready to go defend their community, and the guy says they brought these guns into the community thinking we were going to kill each other, and since we didn't, they came here to stoke the fires. We are under attack, gentlemen, and we will defend our community. And so the thing is, back in the day, a lot of drug dealers did actually kind of do stuff like that,
Right.
defended their communities from outside influence and outside folks, and gave back to their hood and stuff like that. But you have to think about it. So there was a video that came out a couple years ago where this guy in Chicago was talking about how a box of guns was just dropped off in the hood and nobody knew where it came from. It just showed up one day. Like a box just fell out of a truck or something like that in the middle of the street, and it was just a bunch of guns. Nobody knew where it came from. And then there was another guy who was on a video saying that, you know, there were some train tracks behind his hood, and a train just came there one day. Like nobody had seen a train on those tracks for years, and a train just showed up one day, and a car just parked there and left. And so people left it alone because clearly, you know, we very skeptical of everything in the hood, you know. And so when somebody finally walked up to it, opened up the train car that had been sitting there for so long that seemed abandoned, it was full of guns. So, I mean, even NATO has done a study saying that the U.S. literally has about probably 3 or 4 guns for every citizen in this country. And so there are so many guns that get made that nobody knows where they go to. You know, with as many guns as we have, it's very hard to track where they are. And so I would not be surprised if, you know, just like crack was introduced into our neighborhoods, and like I was saying, AIDS was introduced to the gay community and the black community and the Hispanic community in various areas that were populated densely. Now, do I know if AIDS is a government conspiracy? Now, I don't want to sit here and say that it is, but it sounds like it. But yeah, it's crazy. I just wish the movie had been a little bit different.
Yeah.
I wish it was not so hitting home for me, but I understand why it was what it was. I understand why it is what
Right.
it is.
I understand. I just didn't find it entertaining at all.
And so you won't smoke with the movie.
I won't smoke.
I got you. Well, that's gonna do it. Us for here. Ice, thank you for coming through, man. Really appreciate you.
it.
And we'll check y'all next week. Check us on every outlet out there. We've gone way too long, so we'll check y'all next week. Thanks for listening. Peace.
Peace.